Hello and welcome to Life at Noon. My name is Rachel Hugenberg and I am here this morning with two other of our fabulous librarians at Sci-Fair, Liz Nebeker and Melanie Wachsmann, who is
Perfect.
also
You got it.
our acting manager at this time and our assistant manager. And they are both huge fans of tabletop gaming. So with International Games Week coming up in November, we actually are about to start celebrating International Games Month here at the library, some with our giant games displays, some with programs like this one. And being a tabletop gamer myself, I play D&D, I'm really excited to get to know some of the more new tabletop games and some of the old classics that we can play with our friends and families during the upcoming holidays. So Liz and Melanie, if you want to, take it away.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we will start.
So Liz and I are going to kind of bounce back and forth. If you've seen board game programs before, I should look familiar to you, and I've shared a lot of knowledge about board games. So I wanted to do this one a little bit differently. Usually I just kind of randomly choose categories and talk about things, but I wanted to delve more into the mechanics of board games. So what are the kinds of things that a board game does that you enjoy? And there are definitely mechanics that I like and some that I don't like. So as we go through, we've picked out some classic, and we mean classic, board games that hopefully you all are familiar with. And we're going to share what those mechanics are that the game uses. And then we're going to suggest some other board games that are a little bit newer that use some of those same mechanics.
And I'm going to preface this by saying that I love games, but I do not have the knowledge that Melanie has about the games. So I know all the old school games, though. I know those. All right. Oh, this is super exciting. So there is a way for you to be able to play a lot of the games that we're going to show you, plus a lot of other games where you can play them online. It is called Board Game Arena. And you can play with friends and you can play with new people, and it's international. So you play with people across the world. And you don't have to join. There is a free membership to this. There is a membership where you can pay, what is it, like $2 a month or $20 a year or something, and you get access to some premium games. What's great about that, though, is if you don't want to join, you can still play those premium games if someone invites you to play them. So you just can't start those premium games, but you're still able to play them, which is pretty awesome. Melanie and Monty, who have a board game YouTube channel, they actually made a video about Board Game Arena, and I have a QR code and a bit.ly, the BGA Life, that will take you to the video that they created about Board Game Arena.
Yeah, so I want to mention a few other things about Board Game Arena. If you're really into board games, you can become an alpha or beta tester. So the developers are constantly putting up new games. And so I think if you play 500 games across 20 different titles, then you can become an alpha or beta tester. You don't actually have to give them any feedback. You can just try playing the games. Though to play those games, everyone does have to be part of the alpha or beta tester program. One great thing about Board Game Arena is that you can play with your friends, no matter where they are. Liz and I play games all the time, even though we see each other at work and we see each other outside of work. But it's just nice to, at night when you're winding down, to log in and take some turns. And so you can play turn by turn, just whenever you have a chance. You can also play in real time. There is an arena where you can battle other people. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can use it. And it's really nice, especially if you just want to try out a game, or you don't have a lot of space for board games, or you're too tired to set up the board game, then you can just log in on your phone or your iPad or your tablet or your computer and play some games.
And some of the games we're going to talk to you about today are actually on Board Game Arena, and so they're going to have the little symbol of the cloud next to them. All right, so our first game mechanic that we're going to talk to you about is Monopoly. Everybody loves Monopoly. You love being able to bid on stuff, earn money, spend money, collect all the cards, dominate the world of Monopoly. And Melanie is going to talk to you about some games that are like Monopoly. I have never played any of these games, So
the three games that are somewhat like Monopoly are Acquire, The Builders, and Machi Koro. So I personally don't enjoy Monopoly, and the only one of these games that I played is Machi Koro, and I don't really like it. So it goes along with, now I know kind of, okay, well, I don't really enjoy that type of mechanic. Monty, who is in board game videos with me, he has played all of these games, and he's definitely my guru when I was like, well, what are games like Monopoly? So he helped me put some of these together, but I have played Machi Koro, and for me, it's just not a game that I enjoy, but I know a lot of people who do enjoy it. So if you like Monopoly and you want to try something a little bit different, Machi Koro is definitely a way to go.
All right, our next OG game is Clue or Cluedo. Using your memory and using deduction is how you win the game. Clue is definitely one of those classic games, and I also love that they have made all the different versions of Clue, depending on what your fan base is, whether it's The Office or Scooby-Doo, Nightmare Before Christmas, and they have a whole bunch of other different types of Clue games. So these games that Melanie's going to talk about are some Clue-like games.
So I really enjoy games where you have to use deduction, though sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating. But we have Sleuth, Code 777, Scotland Yard, and Search for Planet X. So Code 777, I've played one time, and the first time that I played it, I wasn't really that clear on what my strategy should be. So it was a little bit frustrating for me. But if you notice from the box in front of you, you would have three numbers. And the other people you're playing with, they have three numbers that they cannot see. And through clues that you're able to give, you are supposed to be able to figure out what numbers you have. And once you've figured out your numbers, you win a round and then you get new numbers. So I just didn't start out with the best strategy, but next time I think I'm going to do much better. One of my very favorite games right now is called The Search for Planet X. So it is a sci-fi based game. There are different celestial bodies in the sky, including gas clouds, asteroids, comets, and then there's also Planet X, which you are searching for. So this game includes an app. So through that app, you will learn different pieces of information about how close different bodies are to each other. It takes place in, there's a basic version where there's 12 different sectors, and then there's a harder version where there's 18 different sectors. And so there are different rules and pieces of information that as you go through the game, you will be able to figure out what is in each sector. And once you have figured out where Planet X is, which sector it's in, and what's on each side of it, then you can enter your guess into the app, and that is how you win the game. It's a lot of fun.
And we didn't really put a section on it in our PowerPoint, but there are quite a few games out there that you actually can use an app with. One of my favorites is called Fuse, and it's like a timer that's counting down. And so you have to defuse the bombs before the timer goes out, and you have to have the app. So that's another little fun aspect that game makers have thrown into some of the games. All right, Risk, World Domination, definitely one of my husband's favorite styles of games. Player, eliminate as many players as you can, conquer the world. Again, Risk is one of those old school games. There's lots of different types, Lord of the Rings, Game of the Thrones, And these are some games that are like Risk.
So again, this is a category that I'm not really that into. Monty, however, he enjoys a good war game. Rising Sun was one of his favorites, and we had several different versions and add-ons and all types of things. So Innis is another war game, World Domination, Rising Sun, and then Blood Rage. So if you have someone in your life who's into those types of games, maybe pick one up for them and see what you think about it.
And a lot of times these kind of games are the long playing games where they're not going to just be quickly over in the 30 minutes. Some of them can go on for hours. That's pretty much a key thing with some of these domination games. All right, the next one is the video game Tetris, and then a few years later, they had the board game Blockus, which is a tile placement game. You're trying to cover a grid, and you're trying to cover that grid to earn points or get rid of the tiles and have a clean grid. And these are some great games that are like Tetris.
So Patchwork is a 2-player game, and it has a quilting theme. So if you have a quilter in your life, they would probably really enjoy this. It's very easy. There are different pieces that you get to build your quilt with. You want to the first person to get a 7x7 will get some bonus points. There are buttons on some of the pieces, and that will earn points for you to spend to purchase different pieces of the quilt to lay on your grid. So that one's a lot of fun, and it's very easy to play, and it's pretty simple. Isle of Cats is a new favorite game. I know that we've talked about this in some other videos. It's a little bit of a heavier grid placing game. There are a lot of different elements. It includes card drafting and a little bit more strategy, but the theme of the game is that you are rescuing families of cats from the Isle of Cats, and you want to bring them to safety. So for each round, you will be rescuing a cat, and those cats are in the Tetris shaped pieces, and you're laying them onto a boat. And there are different things that you can cover on a boat, like colored maps that will earn you a treasure. There are rats on the boat that you want to try and cover, but you might also have a card in your hand that says you get points for each of those rats that you don't cover. So it's a lot of fun. It is a little bit heavier, but if you're looking for that type of a game, then it might be perfect for you. Fits is a really fun game where you each have a little grid in front of you, which you can kind of see on the box, and a card will be drawn with a particular shape, and you put that shape on your grid wherever you want it to go. And whoever has the least amount of uncovered spaces at the end wins. So it's fun to see how different people will place the same shapes, but in different ways. And then My City is another newer game that Monty and I really enjoyed playing. As you go through, there are different lessons that you play. You open up an envelope and you read the rules for those. Usually it's a groups of 3. You'll play through, and then you have different stickers and other pieces that play into the board. So as you are playing, you are actually modifying your board, which kind of freaks some board game people out, but this is the way that it's meant to be played. And once you've played through all of the lessons, you're still able to play through their general, with their general rules. But it's been a lot of fun for us to go through the lessons.
All right, our next old school game is our classic Uno, where you are doing your hand management, you're matching like cards. You also get to take that. You get to pick up something if you win, or you get to mess your competitive players up. And some games that are like that are a lot of fun.
Yeah, so these are games that I enjoy, and it's really nice because a lot of people think of Uno and they're like, oh, it's just Uno, there's just one thing that you do and it's luck, but they're fun, and that's why people like them, because they're easy to learn, they're portable, and everyone knows how to play them. So the game Llama is a lot of fun. It is very reminiscent of Uno. You have cards, there's numbers 1 through 6, and then there are llama cards. So as you're playing, you have to play either the same number or one above. It goes 1 through 6, and then you can lay down a llama. So you want to try to get rid of your cards as fast as you can. If you can't play, you can draw a card, but then that just means you're adding to your hand. And then once somebody goes out, you get points for all of the cards left in your hand. So if you have a 1, you get 1 point. If you have 2 3s, you would only get 3 points, and so on. But if you're left with a llama card, that is worth 10 points. So you get chips for the points that you have earned, I guess is probably not the right word, but the points that you've gotten because you weren't the first one to go out. It goes up to 40. But if you are the first person to go out with getting rid of all of your cards, then you can lose one of your chips. So if you have one of the chips that is worth 10 points, then all of a sudden you've lost those points and you're back in the game. Push is a game that I have not played, but it is a card game where you are pressing your luck. And then Red 7 is a really interesting game. And I've played it with some people who they're like, oh, this game is so hard. So even though it has that Uno-like quality, it's a little bit more of a brain burner, which I enjoy, but I can't play several games all in a row because, like I said, it's a brain burner. So you get a little bit tired. So in the game, there are different cards of different colors, and each of those colors has a specific rule. So when that card is down, that means that is the rule you have to play with. Like you can only play even cards, or you have to play odd cards. And so as you go through, the rules continually change, and you're trying to get rid of your cards, but you have to be able to follow a specific rule to get rid of those cards. And I do, if you want to get on Board Game Arena, I encourage you to play both Llama and Red 7 because they're quick and easy, and especially Llama, it's a fun game to play with your family and friends.
All right, next is Benga Operation. Here we're talking about dexterity, having that steady hands. Obviously in Jenga, you're stacking stuff, but these next couple of games are obviously very hands-on games, so they're not going to be on Board Game Arena, but they're great games. I love go-kart.
Yes, I love dexterity games. I just think they're a lot of fun. So two that are very similar are Junk Art and Men at Work. So Junk Art has, obviously you're making art out of junk, and then Men at Work has more of a construction theme. So a card will be chosen. Everyone has to choose that same piece and place it on their tower. And then you want to keep placing things. And the first person whose tower falls over, they lose. So that one's pretty easy, but it's a lot of fun. And they have really nice wooden pieces too. Tokyo Highway is one that I don't particularly enjoy, but in my household, other people like it, so I end up playing it too. But you are building a system of roadways, including bridges that will go over different roadways that cars will be traveling on, and there are rules, and it's a little much for me, but it's also, I think it, especially with playing with kids, I think they would really enjoy it. They're able to use their imaginations, and a lot of times, I feel like they have a different way of thinking, and sometimes it's better than what I was thinking. So, and it is nice to be able to play games where you're not just, moving a meeple on a board, and you're actually, you're actually able to be a little bit more creative with your gameplay.
All right, and then good old Scrabble. We all love a good word game. These are some really good word games.
Yeah, so being a librarian, obviously I enjoy word games. Maybe it's not obvious, but I enjoy word games a lot. And these are all very different types of word games. So Letter Jam is a cooperative word game. So you create a word with lettered cards. I believe it's a 5-letter word, and you pass it to your neighbor, and then your neighbor's job is to figure out what word you gave them. So the way that it works is you'll put those cards in front of you, kind of like code 777, and then there will be clues given by the rest of the group to help you figure out what letters you have in front of you. And then once you've guessed your letters correctly, at the end, you can score an extra point if you can figure out what word they gave you. And we actually went on a cruise and we took Letter Jam with us, and it was a great game to play on a cruise. And we had people walking by and they were asking what we were playing. So that was a lot of fun. And so some of these games are, things that you could just take on a cruise or on a vacation, and they're, portable and fun to play. So Paperback is a game where you're creating words. It's a drafting game. And when you're drafting, that means you're looking at cards and you're choosing between, however many cards, you're choosing what you want to take and put into your hand. So in Paperback, you're choosing cards that have letters on them, and those letters will give you points, and you're trying to create the best, longest, most point-filled word that you can for each turn. Paperback has a lot of fun flavor text, and flavor text is a term that they use to mean that words or phrases or characters are included to add fun and theme to the game. So you're actually a novelist in the game. And so you're trying to earn points, and you do that by making the words that will earn you the most points. And then you're again taking cards that have letters on them. And then Montage is a really interesting game, and it actually looks like it's probably from the 60s or 70s, but it's not. It's a game that you play with a partner. So it's a 4-player game. And there is a 4-letter word that you're trying to get your partner to guess by giving clues. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Password in that way. But it's a lot of fun, and it's, and it's interesting to see. It's one of those things where I think if you play with someone, it's a little bit easier, but it's a lot of fun trying to figure out what the word is and trying to see how you think your clue will mean one thing, but then they take it in a totally different way.
All right, and then Yahtzee. Yahtzee is actually one of my favorite games, and Melanie actually introduced me to one of the games we're going to talk about later that kind of hooked me onto games, because I really love those roll and write or flip and write games. And so these are some great ones that are like it. I'll talk about cartographers because I actually can talk about that one. It is a game where you are given a grid that has trees and some ruins in some of the squares, and you flip over the cards, and as you flip over the cards, everybody has some rules that they have to meet, and it's played in 4 rounds, and so there's a different rule for each round, and the cards are flipped over that tell everybody what shape they have to draw onto their grid, and you get points according to how much space you have filled in and how well you meet the rules for that round. And it's a lot of fun. And it's one of those games that's kind of different every time you play, because the rules can change every round, every game.
And Super Skill Pinball 4K is also a favorite game of Liz's because she is a pinball wizard.
Yes, I am.
So she enjoys pinball. So this was one I was excited to share with her. So your game board is actually a pinball. I don't know what you call that. Do you call it a board?
It's a, oh my gosh, yes.
Okay. So you're looking, there are flippers and different things that I don't know pinball terms, but you're rolling dice, and then
targets and bumpers.
Yes. So when you 2 dice are rolled and you choose one of the 2 dice, and that's by choosing that number, you're choosing what element you're going to be running into on the board. And so you will work your way down. There are ways that you can use the flippers to send you back up to the board. There are bonuses like a second ball. And it really does feel like a pinball game, but it's also a roll and write. So it's a lot of fun. And that one actually uses dry erase markers with it. So it's not paper like cartographers. And then the last game is available on Board Game Arena. It's called Welcome To. And in this game, you are a developer, either of a neighborhood like Welcome To, or Welcome to Las Vegas, you are building casinos. And so your grid or your paper is streets. And on that street, there are either houses or casinos. And the cards, it's a flip and right. So the cards are labeled 1 through 15. And then there are also different actions, like you can you can work on a construction site. So then the next round, you can actually build something on that house or casino. You can do an improvement, and then you'll be able to scratch something off, and that will lead to more points later. So as you're going across, it's 1 through 15, and you're trying to complete all of the tasks that there are while trying to gain as many points as you can compared to your competitors. And it's a lot of fun, again, to see how the other players are using the same elements that you have, but they might be using them in a different way. And the base game is Welcome to Your Perfect Home, but then they also have different seasons, and they even I know they have a Halloween version as well. So, and they're just different pads of papers that you can get. So that game is a lot of fun too.
We have hearts and spades. I played hearts with my mom all the time. This is all about hand management and trick taking. And so these are some great games like that.
Yes, I love trick taking games. So these are some of my favorites. Papayu or Papayu, I don't really know how it's pronounced, but this is a game that I played on Board Game Arena first before it was really even out in the United States. And it took a couple months before we were actually able to purchase a physical copy of it. But in the game, it's a card game, and there are the regular 4 suits. It goes from numbers 1 through 10. And then there's a suit of Payu cards, and those Payu cards go from 1 to 20. So in the game, you're trying to score as few negative points as you can, because any points that you get are negative points. So in the suits, there is a 7 so you'll see on the box, there's the 7 card. So each round a dice is rolled, and that die will tell you whichever suit is chosen, that 7 card is now worth negative 40 points. So if you end up taking the trick that has that 7, then you will lose 40 points. All of the Payu cards are negative points as well. So there's a lot of strategy in this game. Monty, this is probably his favorite game, and he plays it a lot. So he's a lot of times he can remember what cards have been played and which ones haven't. But we have a lot of fun just playing this game, because there is a lot of take that. Sometimes you'll get stuck with all the Payu cards, and then you end up with negative 250 for the round. So that one's a lot of fun. Tichu is a trick-taking game that you play in partners, and the object is to get rid of your cards as soon as you can. You and your partner want to work together to make sure that you are the first 2 to go out, because that is how you earn the most points. And then Diamonds is a game that I haven't played in a long time. And Liz and I were talking about how exactly it was played, but I don't know if either one of us really remembered. But it does involve betting with diamonds, and I know that it is one of her husband's favorite games.
Yep, you get to steal diamonds. He loves it. All right. And now we have some like action games. These would almost be party games that you could play with adults, with kids. Obviously, Twister is one that many people know, has action and dexterity. And these are some really fun ones. I'm going to talk about Happy Salmon because it is so fun. So Happy Salmon looks like this unassuming game. And basically, every player gets a deck of cards in their color. And there are 4 cards. There's a high five, a pound it, a switcheroo, and a happy salmon. And the point is you stand around a table. This is definitely a game that you have to be standing up for because you've got to move around. And you are trying to get rid of your deck as fast as you can. But the only way you can get rid of your cards is as you're going through your stack, you just pull off the top card. You don't really look at what you're doing. And as you're going through your stack, you have to have a matching card with someone else. So you either have to have a high five, or you have to have a, what's it called?
Switcheroo.
Punch it.
Pound it.
Or a switcheroo, or a happy salmon. And what's great about this game is there's two ways to play it. You can play it where you're like yelling out, high five, high five, high five, until someone else says, oh, I've got a high five. And then you can get rid of those cards and pull up your next one. But my favorite way to play it is the silent version where you actually have to do the hand gestures. It is so fun. And it's a great game for kids, teens, adults. Everybody really loves that game and has fun playing it.
Yes, I love Happy Salmon, and it's really funny if you are a spectator to just see everyone going nuts while they're playing this game and running around the table.
Especially the silent version.
Yes, especially the silent version. There's also another Happy Salmon game. It's the same game, just a different color. And so that way you can make it into a 12-player game, which I think would just be complete pandemonium. Also, kids who can't read, they can play this. It's a great way for them to burn off some energy too. If, you know, sometimes kids are bouncing off the walls, and they'll be like, okay, let's play Happy Salmon. So it's a fun game. Hearts of Attraction is a game that involves magnetic hearts. So if you have little ones who are learning about magnets and poles, that might be interesting for them to look at. But basically, you lay the hearts out on the table. You'll take one and you slide it across the table, and you want to try to make some connections. As long as your heart connects with at least one other one, you get to keep those. And then the next player will go up until the end, until there are no hearts left. And then the person who has collected the most hearts is the winner. It's a super easy game, but it does get you up and moving. If one flies off the table, which happens sometimes, then if you can catch it, you get to keep it. But it's really easy to teach and to learn. And I think it would be a great game for kids. And then Throw Burrito, I think, is probably a game that many of you have seen. It's from the creators of Exploding Kittens. And if you haven't played Exploding Kittens, you should. It's a lot of fun. No kittens are harmed in the playing of the game. We have Throw Burrito, but I've been afraid to play it in the house because it involves throwing big plastic burritos. But it's a card game, and all of their games are super fun. So, but yeah, and they even have one with giant blow up burritos that you can play outside too.
All right. Go Fish. Everybody loves collecting sets when you play Go Fish. These are some great games that are like Go Fish. Melanie and I play almost all of these together.
Yes, we play, and the three that you can play on Board Game Arena, we always have at least one game going with each other. So Jaipur is a really fun game, and it's actually an older game that's been around for a long time. But you are at a market and you are selling goods to try and collect rupees. So you can sell goods in groups between 1 and 5. If you sell 3, 4, or 5 of the same, you will get some bonus rupees. And there are also camel cards. And when you have cards in your hand, there will be a line of cards out that you can choose from. So you can use camel cards to trade, to get different cards into your hand. And if at the very end of the game, when 3 of the 6 types of materials are all gone, the person who has the most camel cards will get an extra 5 rupees, and whoever ends up with the most rupees will win that round, and it's the best 2 out of 3. Just Desserts is one of my favorite games, but do not play it if you're hungry, or I always end up wanting dessert after I've played this game. So there are customers wanting desserts, and they're laid out, and then in your hand you have all different kinds of desserts. Some of them are one thing, some of them are a complete dessert, and you are trying to match up your cards with the people and what they want. You serve your guests, they go into your hand. The first person who has 5 of one of each different kind wins, or if you have 3 of the same kind of, they're in different categories, the same category, then you win that way also. It's a lot of fun because you can poach your guests from your opponents, and you can also open a buffet if you happen to have 4 cards that are just single ingredients. So that one's a lot of fun, and it's really fast and easy. I love that one. And then Koikoi is another game that I was introduced to on Board Game Arena. And it has sets of 4 cards, and they go along with different months, as you can see. So there are 12 sets of 4. Within each set, there are some cards that are special and have more power. So there are ribbons. If you notice at the bottom of the chrysanthemum row, that September has a blue ribbon. So if you collect 3 of the same ribbon or 5 ribbons, then you can end the round and you earn points. There's also, like, the moon is considered a bright, and if you collect 3 brights, you can end the round and collect points. So it's a lot of fun. It's frustrating sometimes because you feel like you can't ever win. And then sometimes you're really lucky and you can win a lot. And Cat Lady is a game that I have talked about, I think, at least 2 times on other videos. It's a set collecting game. You are collecting food and toys and outfits for these cats, these stray cats that you're saving off of the street. So the more sets you're able to collect, the more cats you're able to save and feed by collecting the food, then you are the winner of the game. Set collecting is one of my favorite game mechanics. I love it.
All right, so then these are just some of our favorite games that we didn't really know where to put. Melanie, you want to go first?
Sure. So yeah, I was like, when we were going through this, I was like, I want to talk about these games, but we don't have anywhere to put them. So Draftosaurus is a really fun game if you have someone in your life, especially a young one who likes dinosaurs. The actual physical game has little plastic dinosaur meeples. But it's a drafting game like the title suggests, and you're choosing a dinosaur each round to place on a board, and you get different points for placing your dinosaurs different places. So it's a lot of fun. It's a game that takes place. There are 2 rounds of dinosaurs for each round. So 4 sets of dinosaurs, 2 scoring rounds. Splendor is one of my all-time favorite games. If you have a Marvel Universe lover, they do have a Marvel Universe game version as well. It's a resource management game where you are collecting gems, and those gems will allow you to purchase cards. And once you are collecting more gems and cards, then you can earn more points. You can invite royals to come. It goes to 15. It's a lot of fun. To me, this game has a lot of strategy involved as well, because you kind of have to always think 2 or 3 steps ahead. Azul is another favorite game. It has great playability on Board Game Arena. It is using the theme of Portuguese tiles. So they're the beautiful tiles that you see. You are collecting different numbers from 1 to 5 to create and finish a pattern on the game board. And the more completions you have that are next to each other, or make rows up and down, or if you have 5 of the same type of tile, then you get bonus points for that.
My favorite games are Munchkin. Rachel probably would like that game because it's kind of a role-playing game where you read the cards and you do what they say and you defeat monsters, and there's lots of different versions. There's Zombie Munchkin, all different kinds of games. Seven Wonders Duel is based on a game called Seven Wonders, but this is the 2-player version. We've talked a couple of times about just 2-player games. There are a whole bunch of games out there that are great for just 2 players. There's also some great solo games. But Seven Wonders Duel is you are collecting commodities, and you are trying to build up pyramids and use your commodities to collect points and gold. And there's actually, what's great about Duel is there's some different ways to win. You can also win by defeating your enemy with the war cards. It's just a great game. And then my all-time favorite game, which Melanie doesn't like and my husband doesn't like, so I have nobody to play with, is called Flux. And the reason I love Flux is because it is a different game every time you play. It is a card game, and you start with basically 3 cards, and you start with a basic set of rules. And as you play the game, you put down cards to change the rules. And it is so much fun. And it's another one that has a whole bunch of different versions. You can see which games of our favorites you're able to play on Board Game Arena. And that is it, right? Yes.
Yeah, so this last slide, there's a QR code or a link if you want to go check out some more of the Much Ado About Board Games videos. We haven't posted in a while, but I'm sure that eventually we'll get back into it. There's so much that you can find and play. If you're interested in learning more about board games, boardgamegeek.com is an excellent resource, and you can actually, if you figure out what kind of game mechanics you like, you can search for games that include that particular mechanic.
All right, thank you so much, guys, for giving us really great background in some tabletop games and board games that we can play with our families. They also make wonderful gifts if you're looking for something a little bit different this year. And we are excited because this was a great kickoff for our Board Games Month, which should be coming up soon. So
Yes,
do look
that's
out
exciting.
for our fabulous life-size games, as well as other programs for International Board Games Week, which we celebrated as a month here because we love board games. So join us. Thank you so much, Liz and Melanie, for giving us your favorites as well as some of your friends and family favorites for our folks to enjoy. And do join us for Life at Noon in 2 weeks. We are having Counselor Vivian Corday come to celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month with us, because October is Mental Health Awareness, on the 27th at noon, and we are going to be discussing mindfulness. So do join us then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.